YouTube, JamesTheKid00 here, coming to you guys with a new deck profile for the brand new January 2014 format. Something people have been asking for is Prophecy, and I've brought you guys a bit of a different profile. A lot of you will probably say this is bad, but I like to think of this as a deck that makes the most of some of the newer card choices available to it, and I felt like just taking a completely different slant on the deck, playing a few unexpected things. Some of its interactions admittedly do make it a bit more inconsistent, and I will probably come up with a more efficient and boring deck profile later on. But I felt like making one that would actually make some people think, one that actually has a few interactions you don't normally see, so I figured that's what we're going to go with today. If you guys want to make a more efficient build, basically cut all the random stuff that the really odd stuff I'm playing. So we're going to start off. This is technically a Priestess variant, so we are playing double Priestess. Triple Priestess is, in my opinion, just too many. It does draw really inconsistently if you have 3, so 2 is a good number. For our third boss monster, and it kind of seems a bit weird after I said playing 3 Priestesses draws inconsistently. The third monster we play is a Prophecy Destroyer. A Prophecy Destroyer is a card you only really see in the Reaper build. And this card really comes into its own with quite a few of the cards that had played in this build. Firstly, it has a really good, of course, interaction with Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. Phoenix Wing, of course, is going to be able to pay this as a cost, no problem. It is also searchable with Justice, which makes the third Justice in the deck permanently live if you haven't seen, if you haven't drawn one of these 3. So it makes the third Justice live. It's also really quite good at tributing over your Spellbook Magician in turns where say you go first turn, you set up your Magician, Fate, and Tower, which is a moderately ideal opening. Next turn, if you're able to protect that Magician using the Fate, you can then summon into your Prophecy. You can then tribute summon into your Prophecy Destroyer, and it's a 2500 body that is kind of better able to defend itself in situations where you may not be able to get back the Fate very quickly, because of course Fate is now limited to 1. It's also pretty cool with the fact that we play Apprentice Magicians in this deck, so we can go, if we're attacked by multiple monsters, we can go Apprentice Magician, Magician of Faith, and then if that Magician of Faith survives, you can flip it face up, add a spell or spellbook back to your hand, and then tribute that Magician of Faith for Prophecy Destroyer. So it's got some quite nice interactions with the survivability of the field in this deck. Then we're going to carry on in some of the more boring bits. We play 3 copies of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. Of course, you want to Stratos for your spellbooks, you want to get your spellbook engine running as quickly as possible. 3 copies of Justice of Prophecy, because Justice is a little bit more consistent in this variant, so why not play it at 3? It's a little bit more live, has more targets. Double Apprentice Magician. Apprentice Magician is in here to get 2 things, Magician of Faith and Spellbook Magician. This deck is a little less aggro, a little bit more passive until it gets to its Prophecy Destroyer, or until it gets to its High Priestess. So the 2 Apprentice Magician are in there, and then the 1 recently unbanned card, Magician of Faith. This is one of the few decks that would actually play Faith in. It's one of the few decks where Faith is actually going to be kind of, which can support its slowness. It's a really slow card. I really wouldn't play it in very many fast decks, but hey, Magician of Faith in this deck is pretty effective, and there are a few non-spellbook spells that it can give you access to, but it is also the quickest way to get back to your Fate, now that Fate is at 1. So, Magician of Faith. That rounds us off at, I think, 12 monsters. Yeah, 3, 3, 3, 3. So 12. We play 12 monsters, which is 1 more than the usual ratio. But our monsters are a lot less aggressive. For the spells, we play 6 non-spellbook spells, and then the rest are all spellbooks. So we play the 1 Dark Hole, removal, the drill by now. 1 Book of Moon. Again, generic card. 1 Creature Swap. This is something that I'm toying with. Creature Swap is really cool in tandem with a flipped Magician of Faith, Apprentice Magician, the Veiled or Dead Justice, Spellbook Magician, in some cases even Prophecy Destroyer. So there are so many targets in this deck that Creature Swap is effective with, and you do side deck Veilers and things like that, so I mean you can Creature Swap Veilers. So Creature Swap is it's surprisingly effective in this variant, because you play a few weaker monsters, and hey, if your opponent is going to put in all the work to make a big monster, why not take it? And then the final 3 non-spellbook spells I play are 3 copies of Pot of Duality. Again, Pot of Duality is a card that has a good interaction with Prophecy Destroyer and the Arcanite Magicians, because you can go Pot of Duality if you've already got a Spellbook Magician, and then tribute summon for this, whereas before you would have been stuck because High Priestess of Prophecy takes 2 tributes. You can also Pot of Duality and then just set Apprentice Magician, so or just set Magician of Faith. So Duality just gives you more Duality is a little bit more live in this because there are more things you can do. But that's all the generic spells. For the actual spellbook spells, we play 3 copies of Spellbook Library of the Crescent. Your grave is cleaned out a lot quicker in this deck because of Prophecy Destroyer, surprisingly. So Crescent is a little bit more live than it used to be, but it's still really good on the first turn because if you can get to this, and then if you have the secrets, or if you can get to the secrets off of it, you can set up a 3 Spellbook Engraved Fate, which is like the best opening you can get because you then have access to a banish turn 1. So Spellbook Library of the Crescent, really good if you open it. But it's equally good in the mid-game to late game with Prophecy Destroyer being in the deck. Then we play 3 copies of Secrets, Search Card Extraordinaire, 2 copies of Master. I feel that 3 Master is way too many, so 2 is good. Double Tower, again, 3 is too many, 2 is a perfect number, especially now that Ravine is gone. We don't have to worry about field spell-oriented decks too much. Double Eternity, again, you want to be banishing you're going to be banishing a lot of stuff, and Eternity is just going to get you straight back to it as quick as it can. So the Eternity, and then for the one-offs, the sad 1 Fate. I do kind of miss this being at 2. It is a little bit harder to cycle, but you can still cycle it fairly well. 1 Power, 1 Life, and 1 Wisdom. This Life, I will say now, is the reason why the extra deck is the way it is, because it can revive Veilers, which we side. Basically this gives you access to every synchro monster in the side deck and half the Xyzes. So yes, that is all the spells. We then play 6 traps, which I quite like. I play double Phoenix Wing, Wind Blast. Phoenix Wing is really good with this guy, and it's also good with anything else that may be dead in your hand. So I like the Wing Blast. It's good with dead dualities, dead libraries of the Crescent, so it's surprisingly effective in this deck. Double Mirror Force. Mirror Force is Mirror Force. It's the most effective mass removal card. 1 Compulse and 1 Warning. I didn't like Torrential. Sometimes I like to play Torrential in this deck. I didn't like Torrential in this build because of the amount of monsters we set. We can sometimes set our Spellbook Magicians. We set Arcane Apprentice. We set Magician of Faith. You just don't want to be Torrentialing. So Torrential is just bad, and you can't Wisdom your own stuff if it's face down. So that's that. So that concludes the main deck. It's fairly simple outside of the monsters, so this is going to be one of my quicker new format deck profiles. We're now going to move on to the extra deck, and I do want to say, again, I've said it a few times, but people will still question it, because no one listens to the audio. The synchro monsters are all in here, because you can A, creature swap your opponent's tuner, and B, you do side deck, this deck does side deck Effect Veiler, and the Effect Veiler can be special summon with Spellbook of Life, which does change its level. So you do have access and ways to make every single monster in this extra deck. It wouldn't be in the extra deck if you couldn't make it. So for all those people who wonder how you make them, look at Spellbook of Life and look at Effect Veiler, and you'll understand. So I play the 1 Hype Librarian, mainly because it's a spellcaster, but it's also a synchro monster deterrent. I then play Armades, because Armades is the best rank 5 in my opinion. It's the best generic rank 5. For the rank 6s, 1 Tempest Magician. This is really good because of the burn damage it administers. The 1 Arcanite Magician. I really like this for the amount of removal it offers. 1 Stardust Dragon and 1 Thought Ruler for generic 8s. So that rounds off our synchros. It's just a synchro toolbox that we have access to. For our rank 2s in the Xyzes, we play 1 Shining Elf, 1 Herald of Pure Light, 1 Gachi. Shining Elf is the thing you'll make 90% of the time because it's a spellcaster. It's just a big spellcaster you can make with 2 magicians. Herald of Pure Light you'll find yourself making when you need to add a Priestess back to your hand or something to that nature. And Gachi Gantetsu you will make when you really need to defend yourself. This is probably the card I make the least. This is probably the card I make the most. So think of those what you will. Those are the 2s. For the 3s, you can make 3s in this deck with Life and Justice, or 2 Justices. I only play 1 Leviathan and 1 Zenmaines, just in case. So we'll get rid of those. We play 1 rank 6, because you can make a 6 with Justice and Justice. A Life to Justice by banishing a Justice, so that Justice will come out as a level 6. And then you overlay it with your Prophecy Destroyer and you can make Ptolemy M7. And that can be used to spin a Priestess to your hand, a Spellbook Magician to hand. You can do all sorts with that, so Ptolemy M7 is in there. And then for the 7s we play 1 Hierophant because it's Heavy Storm, 1 Dracosac because it's Dracosac and it's the best generic level 7, and 1 Big Eye because it is a spellcaster. So it is actually a rank 7 spellcaster that can steal your opponent's stuff and then you can still fate them. so it's pretty darn good. So yeah, guys, this has been my my a little bit different spellbook deck profile. I hope you've enjoyed. I've enjoyed making this because I really like playing Prophecy Destroyer, surprisingly. And I like coming up with new wacky things for spellbooks. I do it mostly in my own time. I don't really show it on YouTube, but it is something that I like to toy with, and this is what I've been toying around with recently. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Let me know what you've thought in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys soon with some more new format deck profiles. Peace out. Bye.